It's weird. The Eastern Conference has this ability to do something that the Western Conference rarely does, which is produce a random champion. Have you guys noticed that? We There's a lot of times in which I've had people we've had people say, "Man, dang, the greatest thing LeBron James ever did was take that one NBA, Cleveland Cavalier team before he went to Miami to the NBA Finals." Right? You guys remember that? Yeah, I'll give you the year. I mean, but it's really interesting, right? That you go back and the San Antonio Spurs dominated the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2007, and they swept them 4 games to none. Tony Parker was the MVP. And what's weird is we sit there and go like, it was so amazing LeBron took that team to the finals. They did. They did. What's lost in that is, there was a Sixers team with Allen Iverson that got there. There was an Orlando Magic team with Dwight Howard that got there. There was a Boston Celtics team that was really loaded, obviously. And obviously then we had those Heat teams that made a run, the Cavs team that made a run, but sprinkled in there, we had the Heat 2 years ago, the Pacers this year. I even think you could say the Celtics 4 years ago was a little early. And the Milwaukee Bucks had been in the playoffs year after year after year. They only won the finals when they played the. Do you guys remember who the Bucks beat? I know Bayer does. They beat the Phoenix Suns, coached by Monty Williams. The Suns were that year's random team, but even then, the Milwaukee Bucks needed Kevin Durant's team to fall apart with injuries, and KD had his foot on the line. Otherwise, they beat him in Game 7 at home without Kyrie Irving, without James Harden. The point is that there's a group of these mostly Eastern Conference random teams that weren't the best team or maybe even the second best team in their conference that got hot, went on a run, or had a good matchup and get to a finals. And as prisoners of the moment, we lock in and believe they have a chance. Now, do I think the Pacers have a chance? I do, but all of the data is telling you Oklahoma City last 2 regular seasons have been great, and Denver was a hard matchup for them this year. Last year was Dallas that was a hard matchup for them. But otherwise, they've been pretty dominant throughout, and that's why they're a substantial favorite in these NBA Finals. And the other part we have to look at with some of these outlier teams that have made the finals from the Eastern Conferences, none of them won a championship. They just didn't. None of them won a championship. So I'm not saying it absolutely won't happen. Injuries can be problematic. And I'll tell you, and I'm going to get to what the biggest, I think, storyline to people who watch basketball will be, especially in Game 1. But the likelihood of a Pacer championship, I think, is fairly minimal. Not because I don't like their team or I don't like Indiana or I don't like Tyrese Halliburton. I just have data that shows me Oklahoma City's probably the best team in the NBA. They're playing like the best team in the NBA. They have home court advantage, and they do have a good home court advantage. And the pieces fit together. They defend well. They rebound well. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell me what I'm missing. Here's one. Here's an interesting one. Okay, tell me what you think about this one. It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Basketball people, and I think a little bit non-basketball people or just fans. Byron, what would you say is the thing you're watching for tonight that might be the most telling, obviously in the game, but then maybe in the series as well?
Thing I'm most watching for tonight is what happens in the final 6 minutes of this game, where I believe at some point Oklahoma City will have a lead. And we saw it in the Bucks series. We saw it in the Cavs series. We saw it in the Knicks series. Do the Pacers have that ability to come back from a deficit and do what they did to the previous three teams? Is Oklahoma City immune to that? And it's not that I'm going to tune in at the 6-minute mark of the game,
right?
But it's just the fact of, does this magical run continue for the Indiana Pacers?
I'll buttress that remarks with this, and so this I'm not going to act like this is my own original thought. I had an NBA assistant tell me the cool thing about the Pacers is these things they did in the regular season as well, and they play with a plan late in the game, and that they don't just come down and take, off balance threes and hope for them to come in. Like, they actually have a plan in this particular case. We're going to keep playing with our pace, playing with our tempo, but also now really trying to lock in on shooting some threes. And it has worked for them. I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is how the game is officiated. How it's officiated. And we will hyper-focus, obviously, on Shea, whether or not he can draw fouls in the lane. But I think it's generally a level of physicality that both teams play with. Both teams are crazy physical. Both teams have great depth. And both teams play a style where they're like, if you call a foul, that's fine. You're not going to call every one. And there's just such a dramatic difference in how the games are played and who should be favored based upon how the game is officiated. If it's a tightly officiated game, I think it favors the Thunder. I just do. It means Shea marches to the free throw line. I also think because of their youth, remember it's the youngest team in the NBA, one of the things that the Pacers have a tendency to do is run you off the court because early in the first half you're laying the ball in. You're like, man, this is great. We're just scoring easily. And then you get tired. I don't know if this team does get tired. So it's a solid. Here's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander talking about what his team needs to do to win the series.
Staying true to who we are is the reason why we're here. We'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we changed or tried to be something we're not. Once we got here, we've had success doing so. If we want to keep having success, we have to be who we are. And it's organic, so it's nothing like we have to think about or force. It just is who we are, no matter the moment.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Stay who we are. Here's his counterpoint, Tyrese Halliburton, on what his team needs to do to be successful.
They're historically great on both sides of the ball. They have the MVP. I mean, there's so many different things that you could name down the list of why they are so great at what they do and why they're such a great team. You want to go through the best team. You want to go through the best challenge. So this is the best challenge, and this is the best team in the NBA. It's been the best team in the NBA all year, and they're well coached. They just do everything so well. So there's no shortcuts to beating this team. And we know the odds are stacked against us, but, it is what it is.
It is what it is.